Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Keepwize with Keepingly. I am your host, Daniel Smith, and with me I have my co host, Amira Ravino B. Hi Amira, how are you doing?
Hey there, Daniel. How are you?
I'm fine, I'm fantastic. Once our podcast is doing well and we get to sit here every day and talk about the issues in housing, I am A-OK. So today we have some fun. So, how are you, Amira?
I'm doing good. It sounds like you're bearing a lead here. Who do you have waiting for us? Who did you find that we're gonna have a great convo with?
Well, there's the little anticipation. I want to build the excitement for what we have coming.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Let's do it.
So today we have Mr. Kenon Chen, who is an executive with 25 years in product development and technology experience. He's the executive vice president of strategy and growth at Clear Capital. And Kenon has built some interesting products over at Clear Capital with in relation to the mortgage industry and the appraisal industry. And so, Keenan and I have met once or twice and we've had some great conversations. So we're really lucky to have Keenan here to bring his expertise. So let's welcome on Keenan.
All right. Hi, Keenan.
Well, how's it going?
How are you? We're glad to have you here. I know Daniel just gave a intro, but I'd love to hear your intro. What do you do? Why do you do it? And all those wonderful things. If that'd be great.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I, I'm Kenon Chen. I'm Executive Vice President of Strategy and Growth for Clear Capital, and basically what we are, Clear Capital is a property valuation technology company. We're focused on removing friction from the valuation process and for helping people make accurate decisions connected to properties based on the understanding of the property's value, risk, condition. And we really follow that property all the way through its journey from home ownership to through real estate, mortgage, and capital markets to help people make good financial decisions related to the property itself.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
So Keenan, um, I want to go back a bit from, way high. What interested you in this process, or what started you along this journey to get you to where you are now as the executive vice president for strategy and growth at Clear Capital?
It's been a surprising journey, I think, for me. My original intention and background was certainly not real estate, not housing finance. My background's in technology and in music. Actually, you can kind of see where I'm surrounded by instruments around me because music was my first passion, but I'd always utilized technology in the creation of music, and that led me to also focus on computer science. And so, my first, couple jobs out of school were in the startup world here in the Bay Area during the dot-com boom. And uh, and I realized that a lot of the things that I was kind of building from a technology standpoint, um, for lack of a better word, a lot of things I was building didn't really have a soul to them. They were somewhat cold in terms of the business plans were not really adding direct value to people's lives, at least from my perspective. And I had a chance meeting uh, playing golf. Actually, I don't even really play golf that much, but happened to be out having fun with some friends and met a guy that I gave my business card to, which Daniel knows that's really weird because I'm never good at remembering carrying business cards, but for some reason I did in my 20s. I guess I've gotten worse over time. But I met someone and his friend is our CEO, Dwayne Andrews, who had the idea for ArioNetwork.com. connected up with me. We were able to build the company I was at, able to build that site for him, and that's what kind of started this journey of connecting technology to real estate and the property valuation. And I realized that, hey, here's something that is not just about generating ad revenue or clicks on a site. This is something that, you know, there's a real need for technology here. And if you solve problems here, you're solving problems that actually change the way that people live and have access to housing. So, yeah, that's really what kind of started that journey.
And can you tell more for, thank you for that. Can you share more about how a general homeowner would even see the work that you at Clear Capital do? Where does it show up in the integration in the process?
Yeah, so we're a business to business. You know, we're a B2B company, and we, you know, we're certainly focused on making um, uh, businesses, you know, successful and helping them build better products for consumers. But you'll see us show up in a few different ways. Number one, a number of clients use our automated valuation technology to display current home values directly to consumers. So we're actually in front of 3 to 4 million consumers a month that rely on our values to make decisions around uh, their home. Like, for instance, you know, understanding how much equity that they have in their home, and then, you know, being able to take action, you know, on that, whether it is deciding to take out a home equity loan or home equity line of credit. A number of large lenders and servicers also use us in that way to better understand, you know, when to how to advise consumers on options that they might have based on properties they have that they own. But also, you know, if you go to actually purchase a home and or making a refinance decision on a current mortgage, you know, we do appraisals and other types of valuation products that would be part of that consumer experience for getting qualified for a loan.
Great. So you make sure that, if I'm hearing you correctly, that when homeowners are using whatever systems or tools they're working with their lenders or wherever on their platforms, your technology is powering behind to making sure that we have great valuations there for consumers to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one area, I'm sure we'll get into it more, that we've really been moving into over the past couple of years is really helping with the shopping experience as well for consumers as they're shopping for homes. Um, we acquired a company called Kubicasa a couple of years ago that has an automated floor plan app. So just with your mobile phone, you can it guides you through capturing the home. You know, with holding your phone and walking through the home and capturing home, and, you know, it's like a 5-minute process. And then from that, it generates an automated floor plan with accurate measurements and the layout of the home, and the you can even add furniture and things like that into the layout. And then that's a really powerful tool for real estate agents and sellers to market the home as part of the listing. But the way we kind of think about that um, is that it also gives consumers one a view of what the home actually is, but it also gives consumers uh, powerful information that helps them understand how that home is going to be looked at in the housing finance process. You know, its characteristics and accurate understanding of gross living area, or the square footage that will count, if you will, towards its value.
That's that's certainly instructive, Kenan. I know that you and I have had some conversations previously, and we've gotten into this. But I love how, you know, you guys, where you guys sit in the ecosystem and the value that you provide, and what Cubic Castle brings to this conversation. So I want to go down the rabbit hole of that conversation though. In terms of understanding properties and their value, and what homeowners need to be thinking of, how they need to be going along this journey. How do you, because a large part of what you do is data driven and related in terms of the decisions that you make, or how you decide to or the information that you provide is executed upon to these third party providers, the B2B clients that you deal with. But from where you sit, how much accurate information do we currently have in terms of what homeowners have actually done in their property?
That's a great question. It's there's a lot of information out there, but it's not really well organized in terms of changes or improvements to homes that have been made by homeowners. It's scattered, right? Because if you think about things like permits, those are super localized. Those are issued at the city level, and each area, each local area, does it a little bit differently, and that data is really hard to aggregate. So what often happens is, those improvements or changes to the property aren't really discovered, if you will, until a decision actually needs to be made. Again, a decision around the financing of the property. Maybe it's a refinance where someone is really hoping to have a better payment situation. Of course, right now that's difficult with rates being so high, or they're hoping to take cash out of the property. Those things in terms of making improvements and knowing where they're going to end up. People don't end up finding out till they're actually in the midst of that transaction, and so there's a lot of opportunities for giving people better guidance along the way. Maybe even before they make those improvements, to have an understanding of where they'll end up. And that's a lot of what we've been focusing on, is providing more interactive tools, if you will, interactive models, utilizing things like machine learning and AI to help people run scenarios, right? If I was to change these things or these characteristics, if I was going to maybe improve the condition of my property, what would it be? What would it be worth? And what things should I invest in? So that's I think one of those things where it might also help to drive better standardization in the data itself, so that we on a national level can see what improvements are being done along the way, not just when there's a major transaction or financial decision being made.
So ultimately, what I hear you saying is we need better data, we need better standardization. So from your perspective, are homeowners like leaving money on the table because we don't have a process, or because it can spell to two things in the market: either the market is undervalued or the market is overvalued, because of the way, or because of our current decision making process. And so do homeowners need to think about that, or does the industry as a whole need to figure out how do we get better standards?
I certainly think that homeowners, there's an opportunity to better educate homeowners and bring them into the process earlier, to democratize, if you will, the ability to see their own home in the way that that lenders and other professionals would see their home. It doesn't have to be as much of a mystery, I think, that it currently is for consumers. There's, one of the things that we did was, for the floor plan creation app is we made it free to just get a basic floor plan, because the idea of that you wouldn't really engage in that type of data capture unless you're going to be paying someone to prepare your home for listing. Well, that's way too late. Like, why not make it more accessible and reduce the friction so that you could see exactly what your home is right now, and then also now you have a powerful tool as a to have the floor plan and all the dimensions and measurements to look at things like, well, what would it cost me to replace the carpet, to change to change different aspects of the home. And in fact, we even set it up so that you could export the data in a CAD format so that you could give it to a contractor and have them be able to take a look at possibilities with you. So we see things like on HGTV where we all enjoy watching that, but the idea of like really grabbing that data yourself and doing those what if scenarios that you always kind of see on the TV, like that's possible right now. And I think that empowering consumers along the way, along the journey, if you will, is really really a great opportunity to change the way that people think about these sort of big, scary transactions that they only do, once or twice in their life.
Can you just restate exactly? I love what you just said that consumers can do right now, which is that they can actually go use the app. I'm gonna have you say it again, and be able to take a look at their property in the way instead of just watching HGTV and assuming that you have to wait to these big moments. Can you just reiterate that again? I think that's super important for users.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you can just go to kubicasa.com. It's CUBICASA.com and sign up for free, and download the app and do your own scan. You don't need training. You don't need to be a professional. You can capture your own home, and then again, the output that you're getting from that is an accurate floor plan, with not only measurements but also you can add on the ability to see the difference between your total square footage and what is gross living area or livable square footage. And it's really livable square footage that drives the value is really important when it comes to understanding what your home might appraise for. It's really that livable square footage. So for instance, it has detection for whether you have a finished or unfinished basement, what's above grade, below grade. Anyway, without getting out to the technical details, it's why not know your own home as well as someone that might come into your home later as a professional to assess value, or the way that a contractor would look at it in terms of what's possible. Start with owning your own understanding of what your home is.
Kenon, and that is fantastic because it reminded me, and as you're speaking, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with some persons recently, and they were, discussing how hard it is for us to, as human beings, to really change our behavior. And I think that a lot of what you have mentioned, really, it's about behavior change. But the way I see it, because maybe I'm a kid of the cell phone, so I grew up without having cell phones. Remember having to pick up a dial phone and rotary phones and dialing, and now everybody has a cell phone in their hand. So we as humans adapt and we change. But for what for us is our most important asset, and a lot of the things that you touch on, really, especially around this conversation of empowering and educating consumers, is exactly what we're doing with this podcast. And for us, for me, in building out our product of Keepingly, this is exactly what we are focused on, really about data and the democratization of the data. But I think that more importantly, what I want to understand from you is how do you think we as an industry and, help empower the change that needs to happen because it's a process. The real estate industry is the largest asset class in the world. Um, but the processes of, I read there was an article that was published recently that talked about, the purchase process, while it has added more technology, feels more convoluted for that end homeowner. So we've added more technology, but the process seems more convoluted, how do we ensure that going forward, things like what I'm building, things like what you guys have at Cubicasa, how you guys integrate to the third parties and the information you provide, how do we ensure that we are giving homeowners really the tools while simplifying it to make sure that all around the process feels simpler? Because I think that that is one of the questions that I get even while I'm building, and I'm like, you know what? You've been doing this a bit longer than me, so maybe you may be able to have a better answer. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I see you trying to date me by seeing if I grew up with a phone or not. Um, but yeah, I think it starts with some fundamental things. We often want to jump right to, the actual, flashy experience or the way that the things look, if you will, the look and feel of tools and applications that we build for consumers. But I think we should be focusing on some fundamental things. For instance, the accuracy of data, the accuracy of information. There's a norm, if you will, to provide, for the purpose of marketing, to provide consumers with like teaser data that is known to be less accurate than the real data that's going to be used to actually make decisions, especially important decisions like, are you going to qualify for a particular loan or not? Or what is this home really going to sell for? What can you really expect the market to bear for a particular home? And for the sake of both kind of expediency and ensuring that consumers always get always see an answer when they come to a site, things like home values have been utilized to put in front of consumers that are less than the type of accuracy that's needed to actually make a financial decision. And that trend, I think, is it's actually in some ways created more friction, if you will, for consumers than if we just showed them right up front the most accurate number that we have. Because what happens is a certain expectation is set. You go to your favorite site, you look at the estimate of what you think your home is worth, and then you try to act on that, and you go into an actual loan application situation or things, and then you get this rude awakening, like, wait a minute, I thought it was worth this, and now I'm being presented with different information. We made the decision at Clear Capital to take a little different approach and not to have two different products, one that's just for marketing that's not very accurate, and another model that we sell to lenders for making decisions. We decided to have one model that would always be the highest level of accuracy that we could produce. And so that's the same value if a company is using us to put that value in front of consumers, they're getting that same accurate value that we would also be powering lenders with to make underwriting decisions. And that's a choice we have as an industry, right? To give the most accurate information upfront to consumers, but also tell consumers in transparency when we're confident and when we're not. all of our values come with a confidence score. They come with a metric that lets you see like how confident are we that the value we just gave you is within a certain range of what it will actually sell for. Not everyone does that. Some values are given and you have no idea whether they really knew they were confident or not. So that's a major fundamental change that I think we could be driving to as an industry.
Thanks, Kenon.
I agree with you. I think accuracy is important because so many consumers see things, and wherever they go to get information, and they're like, all right, this must be the truth of what I have, or this is what the property I plan to purchase or have, and trying to understand it. When you think about the future, you mentioned accuracy. Is there anything else that you think, when you're kind of looking beyond, of things that you think is important that the industry needs to start to bring in, or things that consumers need to be looking forward to in the future as you are leading the pack, trying to change the industry?
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes made recently, certainly within the appraisal space, to modernize and digitize appraisals. A lot of that's actually being led by the two largest purchasers of loans of mortgages, and that's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They have this mission to change and improve the appraisal process from really a process that hasn't evolved much in decades. And it's been a paper-based process, or meaning someone goes to the home and they gather information, but not in a completely digital way. And it's often as well about not bringing the entirety of the home into the understanding for all the stakeholders involved. There's a form that's filled out and analysis that's certainly done, but that process really hasn't changed for a while, and so now there's a number of options that are showing up with what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are driving, which is that you can have different levels of products that are needed based on the situation, based on the amount of data that was available and the risk. So this might mean that you might not even need an appraisal for certain transactions. You might be given an appraisal waiver by a lender that you work with, or you might only need to pay for a data collection to be done, which is where someone can come into your home and just collect data using using technology, using a mobile app, and that can save you as a consumer. That could save you, a few $100s. Certainly, if you don't need an appraisal at all, that could save you, $500. And then if it's a data collection only, it could save you again, a couple $100s. So these methods, of course, have been tested for years. There's been at this point, probably over 300,000 loans have been done using some of these methods, but it's changed. It's something different. And then if you're someone that hasn't bought a house a number of times and there's this new process, there's certainly an opportunity to, if you will, have to understand something different. But I think that's where the future, where things are going, is that consumers can be empowered more upfront with understanding what their home is, what their home is valued at. It's kind of like bringing your home with you in your digital wallet, if you will, and then you'll be presented with different options, as you go to work with the lender, where you already have all the data that you need to understand the home's value, and you don't need to get an additional appraisal. Um, uh, but in some cases where there isn't data available, of course, then there'd still be this option to get a full appraisal. So that's a lot of what's changing, is to try to reduce the cost for consumers, speed up the time, but move us to a world in which consumers can understand where they're at before they even are at that loan application point in the journey.
So Kenan, one of the things that you mentioned, and I think that we really need to like understand, it's how I would say the relationship has evolved in terms of what is out there. So before the early 2000s, when we had a lot of these sites that now give you information, because the property journey usually started with a real estate agent. And so now we can go online and you can go to any myriad of sites to figure out where to find a property. Some of these sites also come with their own valuation tools, or give you rough estimates. Um, and while I hear you, I'll challenge you a bit, because some of those sites really have given and democratized the journey for the consumer, because now I don't have to now sit on a realtor, wait for that process to actually go visit a home. And now as a homeowner, I can go into one of these sites. I mean, I have used one of those sites for a refi before. And so I told them, hey, this is valuation I'm seeing on the site. Will you accept it? It was during COVID, of course, but they accepted it, and so I was on my way. And so for me as a consumer, I'm able to take advantage of that. So in terms of what you've just said, it's like we need to be able to ensure how do consumers reconcile some of that, because we've moved from a state where you didn't have information. It was really hard. You had to go through a realtor and an agent to just figure this out. So now we have some of these tools on the front end that help us with our journey. They don't go all the way through the journey, but at least on the front end, they give us the ability to feel a bit more empowered. And some of these sites are some of the biggest sites in the world around property. So how can we, I guess, take a next step, or the next step, especially for the consumers, to make them feel more included in the process? Because based on what you're saying, there's still a dichotomy in terms of where consumers need to be in their thinking, and the tools that they need to have to get them there.
It's a great question, and it's the same question that you would probably ask around things like automobiles. I already have a car to get me from point A to point B. Why do I need an electric car, right? Why do I need new technology for something that's already providing value? It's because we've made incredible advancements to get to this point where we now have this democratized data. Then the home shopping experience has really been transformed right over the past couple of decades. But now we have this opportunity to take it to the next level. And the next level to me is that, with the availability of data now, with the computing power that we have from from cloud computing, from the growth of AI, we have way more ability now to offer not only more accurate results on a wider scale, but also provide additional explainability, if you will, to that data, so that people have also an understanding of how should I use that data, how much should I trust that data. I think that's where things are going. There's a greater level of transparency, and one of the things that changed during COVID as well was I think that there's a new level um, of expectation and a higher level sort of conversation that's happened, where we expect things to be not only democratized but also fair and consistent, and we expect that in each community, regardless of where that property is listed, that the same sort of rigor and methodologies are being utilized so that every community is treated in an equitable way. And so there's, it's great that we've gotten to where we are, but there's another level that's needed to really, I think, not only give people data, but give them context, explainability, and the expectation of how their decisions are going to be successful. So we shouldn't stop where we are.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. Amira, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, you look at my background, I worked at one of the bigger orgs that provided that transparency. And I think something you said, Kenon, that really resonated is that, as we continue to evolve in the industry, we've just got to get better and better and better. And because I worked at one of these organizations, I got heat on both sides, right? I got heat from agents and consumers where maybe valuations were great or maybe valuations didn't feel like they were deserving. And so it can go both ways. And so this ability to get more accurate and get more confident around that information, I think, can be really powerful for the consumer. And I guess my call out to consumers would be, is that just you need to understand that it may not be perfect and the data may not be there just yet, but at least it gives you more transparency than we had where we didn't have that information at all. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've again, sharing the best of what we have with consumers and not having just a something where only the professionals, are armed with data, and yet people that own the home, that actually own the outcome of their investment, are not given that same level of data. Is what I'm talking about is like we can keep pushing, right? We can keep creating more transparency and accuracy with the incredible data that we have access to now. And then we can also bring consumers along with us on that journey so that they can make better decisions about their own investments and ultimately how that's going to impact their family and other things that we all talk about, which is the ability to build wealth and ability to impact the next generation in a positive way.
That's you spoke in the desires of our heart, Kenon, just with that last sentence. But I know we're getting close to wrap up time, but 2 things I wanted to say. Number one, I had this fantastic conversation recently with somebody in the industry, and it started because of what we're building. The conversation turned to stocks and turned to other assets that you have and how your portfolio is. And so what I akin your property to is that your house is part of your portfolio, but it's the part of your portfolio which you have the most ambiguity around because you don't necessarily understand and you don't necessarily track that on a day-to-day basis or even a month-to-month basis. You pay a mortgage. That's how some of us track our houses. And then on the flip side, we get the ROI on that when we sell. But have we understood what is the sunk cost? How much have I paid in taxes? How much have I emergency repairs have I done? How much I've spent for XYZ, and I'm able to tabulate this up. And so now putting this is what I've invested into it, because it's not just your house anymore. You start treating it as an asset. So I think that for consumers, we need to, that's part of that conversation that I would love to do marketers as we build out in Keeping Me and what we're going to do. But final, as we wrap up, my question to you is, and we have to bring you back because I know there's so much more you want to say, but if you had a magic wand and you could change anything in this industry, what would you do with that power to do anything?
It's a great question, and I love what you're trying to do with Keepingly and giving people a spot where they can create better data about their home and have that power their decisioning and take that power into their own hands, if you will. But I think a magic wand, I would. It's going to be about data, really. If I had a magic wand, I would I would figure out how to have all of these sort of local aggregators of data work together better with standards. And I'm thinking about things like permitting data and county level data. You know, if we could roll out standards for how everyone speaks the same language, measures homes the same, and all of that, that would change everything, right? It would change the way that we're able to build accurate models and create better services, for consumers. So I think the magic wand that we've kind of created right now, though, is the idea of being able to use your phone, right? And we have the kind of this wand in our hand. I mean, gosh, 30 years ago, this would seem like magic, right? And so using this to be able to do things like capture the home and generate floor plans, and we have this goal to have a floor plan on every listing, because it changes the way that consumers can shop, view homes, but it also changes the ability to understand what they can do next, with their homes. So I guess we're creating our own magic wand.
I love that. I do love it. I love what you just said. He's like, I got the magic wand. It's Cubicasa. So homeowners, if you haven't heard it already, Kenon just said it. Check out Cubicasa and check it out and take a look at it and see how it works the magic in your home, because he might have just brought you some magic, a little gift for you right there.
And the mirror, during this conversation, you were fiercely on your phone. So did you download Cubicasa?
Bam! I pulled it out. I was like,
oh my.
I panned it out, and I might have actually used it before. I'm trying to think. I was looking for something similar. So anyway, this is exciting.
Fantastic. You see, and so we're bringing the people value. I love it. I have Cubicasa too. I'm just a bit delayed in terms of doing some stuff, but I need to kind of get on that. But we've been so busy. But ultimately, as homeowners, I think that it is about empowerment. And love that we've had Kenon here talking about data and talking about what Clearview and what Cubicasa is doing as a company within Clearview Capital. But ultimately, I love to talk about data because it's based on what we're building. So I may have a little bias in that conversation, but I would ultimately say that for me, it's really about how we democratize and help homeowners. I had a conversation last week where somebody said, we love what you're doing because ultimately for that first-time homeowner, for that buyer who doesn't have the historical knowledge of what to do about their home or what they should be thinking of, we are providing the tools. And I think that, as an industry, which is why Kenon is, so good at what he does and, providing that information. And so, thank you for being here and thank you for, spending some time to really chop it up with us. And then we look forward to having you in the next episode at some point, where you would come and tell us what is the latest company that you've, acquired to help in this conversation.
Yeah, super appreciate you having me here. Great to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.